Good morning, everyone. I want to take you back in time to 2018, where the CBC is reporting, sure, we could spend 4% of GDP on the military with huge cuts or tax hikes. Agreeing to Trump's demand would cost Canadian taxpayers $60 billion. And they're referring to the demand that Trump said NATO member countries need to pay 2% of their GDP for defense. And I mean, I think that makes sense. Right now, Canada pays 1.3%. And interestingly enough, it wasn't Trump who came up with the 2% number. It was in 2014 that number came out. And here's Global News on November 29th this year reporting Canada set to not spend more on defense despite U.S. pressure. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is likely to face questions from other leaders of the NATO military alliance next week as new figures show Canadian military spending is expected to remain stagnant this year. All NATO members agreed in 2014, Donald Trump was not elected in 2014, to work towards spending 2% of the GDP, gross domestic product, on defense within a decade, a pledge that has taken on added significance thanks to U.S. President Donald Trump. Yet, new NATO figures published Friday, so this is recent numbers, estimate Canada will spend around 1.31% of its GDP on its military this year, the same as last year. That leaves Canada 20th out of NATO's 29 members in terms of GDP spent on defense. 9 NATO members meet the 2% target. Here is Justin Trudeau flubbing the 1.3% number, even though, as the Prime Minister of the country, you would expect him to know that we spend 1.3. What number does he say? What do you think at the end? Here we go.
President, Canada does not meet the 2% standard. Should it have a plan to meet the 2% standard?
Well, we'll put them on a payment plan, you know? We'll put Canada on a payment plan, right? I'm sure the Prime Minister would love that. What are you at?
Hold on. I just want to say, that's incredibly insulting, right? Like, you don't want the President of the United States saying, oh, we'll put them on a payment plan. Like, what are we, rent a country? We'll take Ontario and Alberta until this is paid off, you know? And if it's not paid off, Mr. Trudeau, we're going to send in our repo guys, okay?
What is your number?
The number we talk about is 70% increase over these past years, including, and for the coming years, including significant investments in our fighter jets, significant investments in our naval fleets. We are increasing significantly our defense spending from previous governments that cut it.
Okay.
Donald Trump asked Justin Trudeau a question that is literally, what is your number? It is as simple. It's almost a yes or no question, only with a number. There is one answer. It's a number. The answer is a number. Oh, we're going to get a ton of fighter jets and it was 70% of the, what's the number, man?
Where are you now in terms of your number?
We're at 135?
1.3.
1.4. And continuing to move
They're
forward.
getting there. They know it's important to do that. And their economy is doing well. They'll get there quickly, I think. Look, it's to their benefit.
And
really.
the president knows well as well that
1.3, 1.3, 1.3, 1.4. Oh, it's 1.4. Mr. Trudeau, it's 1.4. It's 1.3, and they were saying 1.35 to give him a little bit of bump there. And he's like, oh yeah, 1.4, 1.35 is almost 1.4. 1.4. We'll say 1.4. 1.4. I mean, wild, right? Right? And then Donald Trump gets trash talked by Boris and Trudeau, and I think this is Macron, and I think this is Morneau. We're gonna watch it on YouTube, but it says the last time something like this happened, Donald Trump dropped a nuke on Canada that took almost 2 years to repair. I thought the press conference they had today signaled a genuine warmth by the president towards Canada, but Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, that has been long coming than this. And here's the okay. We'll watch this one, and then we'll watch Trump's reaction today, because that's what that is. Okay, here it goes. Sorry if it's not loud. I'll read it out. I think I'll read it out. Is that why you were late? He was late because he takes a 40-minute press conference off the top. Oh yeah. He announced inaudible. You just watched his team's jaw drop to the floor. So that's the leaders of, you know, the United Kingdom, the countries that are allied or have been allied in the past. Here Trump is asked, what do you think of Justin Trudeau talking about you behind your back? And here he goes.
Have you have video of Prime Minister Trudeau talking about you last night?
Well, he's two-faced.
Do you think that Germany's too naive?
And honestly, with Trudeau, he's a nice guy. I find him to be a very nice guy. But, you know, the truth is that I called him out on the fact that he's not paying 2%. And I guess he's not very happy about it. I mean, you were there, a couple of you were there, and he's not paying 2%, and he should be paying 2%. It's Canada, they have money, and they should be paying 2%. So I called him out on that, and I'm sure he wasn't happy about it, but that's the way it is. Look, I'm representing the U.S., and he should be paying more than he's paying, and he understands it. So I can imagine he's not that happy, but that's the way it is.
And I mean, interesting, right? Like 2014, Trump hasn't even changed the terms of the deal. He's just saying, remember that deal we made in 2014 that everybody said they were going to do 2%? Do 2%. You have money? Do 2%. And yet, oh, sure we could, but it's going to bankrupt us. I mean, first, this is a little A, incorrect, and B, hyperbolic, right? 2%, not 4%. So $30 billion. We've got how many billions of dollars have we sent out of Canada to third world countries at this point in time? And for what? Like, NATO defense seems like it should be a high priority, right? Not something to lie to the president about or dodge his questions about for a full minute, right? Oh, you know, lots of jet fighters and things. This I found interesting. Financial Post is reporting on December 2nd that Canada's Continental Gold agrees to $1.3 billion takeover by one of China's biggest gold miners. Zing Mining Group Company Limited, one of China's biggest gold miners, has agreed to buy Canadian miners Continental Gold Incorporated for $1.33 billion, saying the purchase would increase its gold reserves and boost cash flow as well as profit. Zin, sorry if I've got that wrong, will pay $5.50 per share in cash for Continental, a premium of about 13% to the Canadian company's closing price on Friday. I talked the other day about I was doing a story the other day about there was casino sales at the end of the Liberals' tenure, and they got a 1-year multiplier. So they got about what the casinos make in a year to purchase the casinos, and it was a really, really bad multiplier. And I'd missed the story when it came by the first place. But 13% increase is not what a big gold mine should be getting in a return, period. I think it's really low as far as evaluation goes. Now, the gold mine itself isn't in Canada. I believe it's in Colombia, but I wanted to point it out. I mean, like, it seems like a bad deal for a Canadian company. And it's also follows the Project Sidewinder of Chinese companies buying Canadian companies or buying other companies from other countries in key financial areas. And I mean, gold is as financial an area as you can get, right? So this is concerning to me. Anyway, back to this. As it aims to secure Continental Gold's flagship Bitchute gold project, sorry if I've got that wrong, the Chinese company said in a filing with the Shanghai Stock Exchange. And so there's more to that article. You can read it in the comments. Link is in the description. Here is, if you're in Ontario, you know today is a teacher strike. I used to be an education worker. I've been talking with people about this because some people are saying that the public and the parents are on the teacher's side, and I can tell you that I don't think that increased wages should be on the table. I in fact think that the destruction of the education system is the fact that they're putting all kids, doesn't matter your ability, into one classroom and expecting a teacher to teach to that. That destroys the ability to teach a classroom. You cannot teach huge, widely different kids in one classroom because the kids who are low or behavioral, if you don't have somebody who knows what they're doing with them, they can take over the rest of the classroom. And you don't have, the reason I left education is because there is no way to make the children do what you want them to do if they're inclined to not listen to you. And I'll put that into perspective. I worked with the most difficult children most of the time, right? Most of the kids who they sent to me were kids who wouldn't listen to anybody else. And that's fine. I had a lot of experience. I was quite good at my job for the most part. And fundamentally, when they started filling classrooms with kids who wouldn't listen and then telling teachers, I don't know, figure it out. They were creating a dangerous situation, right? And my goodness, we've got teachers going into classrooms with full body armor. Like, I'm talking body armor, right? And spit shields. Kids in that classroom don't get body armor and spit shields, and the parents don't know about it because of privacy concerns. There are bigger problems than salary, and nobody looking at actually fixing the problems. So what do we do? And I mean, I don't think that striking, I don't think that coming to the bargaining table not ready to bargain is a good move. I don't think that blaming the government for a situation that's been co-created, because sometimes being inclusive isn't the right thing to do, right? It is more difficult when you have kids who are distracted to focus on your work. If you're not able to focus on your work, you might as well join in on the shenanigans that are happening, right? And when you're 8, the shenanigans seem a lot more fun. Not funny, but sometimes funny. I mean, a fart noise goes a long way in a grade 3 classroom, right? And it doesn't take much to disrupt a classroom. And when you've got 1 or 2, sometimes that's doable. That was most of the time the job that I did. But I also worked in section 20, section 22, or 23 classrooms where there were behavioral kids, and it was mostly behavioral, not so much autistic when I was working there, but mostly behavioral kids who couldn't function in a regular classroom, were sent to my classroom altogether so they wouldn't be that impactful in other classrooms, right? And goodness, anyway, it just seems like the problems they're trying to solve with these negotiations aren't going to get solved anyway, right? And so blaming the government and doing this strike, I don't think is playing the way the teachers union planned it. And I don't think the parents are responding the way they expected, the teachers union expected. But that could be me. I'm biased on this, so, and biased due to the years. Like, I worked 15 years in students in education system, and there are big problems, big problems, and people closing their eyes to the big problems don't make the problems go away. They make the problems get bigger. Okay. CBC News is reporting, province says new offer made to teachers union as deadline for one-day strike looms. Contract talks between the Ontario government and the union representing the province's public high school teachers appear to be at a standstill Tuesday ahead of possible one-day strike that could close many schools across Ontario. Education Minister Stephen Leasey said that his bargaining team has presented a new framework to the negotiators for the Ontario Secondary Teachers Federation in a bid to keep all parties at the table. But Union President Harvey Bischoff said the teachers had not been given anything new by a mediator, and no progress has been made for days. Quote, while we'll stay here until the very end and do our very best, the signs are very discouraging at this point, Bischoff said. The minister is either deliberately misleading or completely uninformed. I'd invite him to come down to the hotel and maybe I can update him. I find it interesting that on one side, the minister is saying that he's ready to negotiate and at the table, and he says his team is at the table and they're ready to negotiate 24/7, and they've given a new framework, and the union leader is saying we haven't got a new framework, we haven't got anything for days, and we'll be at the negotiating table, but they're not here. So I don't know what's true, and I don't have resources to go down and talk to these people, as I just don't, so I apologize. So I don't know what's true. I really don't. No idea. But I'm interested to see, because I don't know if that's a negotiation tactic or what. But like this strike, it could be all part of the negotiations. I have no idea. I don't know. I've scrolled down. I find it interesting they went to Kathleen Wynne. And yes, she's long in the tooth and has lots of experience, but she was also resoundingly removed from office recently, and nobody is interested in her ideas. Not one person that I've spoken to says, what does Kathleen Wynne think about this? In fact, I think most people wish that Kathleen Wynne would just go away. But here is her opinion, because the news and CBC is asking for it. So here we go. But former Liberal Premier Kathleen Wynne, who also served as Education Minister, said the Progressive Conservatives made cuts to classrooms ahead of bargaining, hurting the government's relationship with teachers. Quote, it's been more than 20 years since there's been a province-wide job action by OSSTF, she said. I think it speaks volumes. The last province-wide job action was under the Progressive Conservatives' Mike Harris government. The fact is, it's not the same. This government declared war on teachers and support staff. Well, isn't it interesting, Ms. Wynne? Because you presided over paying the union $1 million to avoid any kind of confrontation. Right? Isn't that weird? Here's a Globe and Mail article from 2015 that says Ontario's Liberal government paid $1 million directly to the province's high school teachers union as part of a deal to defuse one of its most explosive labor disputes, a document obtained by the Globe and Mail reveals. In addition, the government financed raises for teachers by diverting money from a fund for special programs that help struggling students graduate. So Doug Ford is saying, here's how we can do this better, and here's how we can do this more financially responsibly, et cetera, as far as I've understood it and as far as I've read what his proposal from his government has been. And I mean, the Liberals just sneakily diverted funds from struggling students directly to teachers' salaries for raises. But they're the good guy in this one? Come on. I mean, it's so funny. NDP leader Andrea Horwath says she knows the potential labor disruption will affect parents who will be forced to find other childcare arrangements, but she thinks overall parents are more upset with the government. Quote, I would hope that what happens tomorrow is a signal to the government, Horwath said. What I expect to see is parents supporting the teachers, to be frank. Nope. Sorry, Mr. Horwath. Not a chance. Back to this. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner also said he thinks parents agree with teachers taking the job action. And there's a quote from Mike, but I'm not going to read it. They're both wrong. I'm very interested to see that either they or me have misread the province terribly. Let me know if it's me, but everyone I've spoken to has said, no, this is not something I support the teachers in. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm way off. Maybe Kathleen wins right, but I don't think so. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com and have a wonderful, wonderful day.